Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to another show on the Comic Art Live channel. Tonight we're going to do something a little different than what we've done before. We're going to do a creator interview, and we're going to just have a nice conversation, give you guys some commission opportunities as well, and we've got a few pieces of art available for sale as well. Before we get started, I wanted to make mention, I'm sure probably everybody's heard that the passing of artist Kevin O'Neill. I'll talk a lot more probably about Kevin on Thursday, but Kevin was an innovator and an incredible talent. I mean, there's certainly, for as long as his career was, there's not enough artwork on CAF representing his time, as a cartoonist, and particularly in British comics primarily, but probably most well known for League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, Martial Law, Warlock. Those lots of different titles, but I was reading through several obits today on the internet, and one that I thought was really well done was over on the 2000 AD site. So for those of you who were fans of Kevin's, I mean, I think that if you haven't read this one, save it, bookmark it for later, and give it a look, because there was also two really awesome podcasts at the bottom. I listened through the one; they were interviews with him in the past, and just absolutely fantastic. I listened to the first one, got about a third of the way through the second one. Definitely worthwhile giving those a listen if you have some time later tonight or tomorrow or whenever you have some free time. So hey, today my guest is Eryk Donovan, and Eryk is repped by let me highlight a few things here from Geoff M Art Sales, and I don't have the I guess I didn't share that screen yet, but I'll show some stuff in a little bit. But let me get Eryk in here. We were having some technical difficulties, he and I, before we got started, but now I think we've got everything worked out. Hey, Eryk, how are you today?
Doing all right. How are you, Bill?
I am awesome, my friend. Fantastic. This is our first time meeting. Have you ever? Do you get out to cons a lot, or I think you're based in Georgia.
I'm currently living in Portland, Oregon.
Oh my gosh, West Coast.
I've been out here since 2018, but Heroes Con in Charlotte was really my first big introduction to kind of the comic art world and to doing conventions. So that has been a regular, and I was living in Savannah, Georgia for quite some time. So I have not been back to Charlotte since pre-COVID. I'm hoping to make it back next year, but yeah, I was certainly in Georgia for quite some time, and I am now currently living in Oregon. Who knows where I'll be in a year or two, but I've been kind of trying to hit the scene. Yes, cons. I've been more on the East Coast con side, New York Comic Con, Baltimore Comic Con, Heroes Con. And I've done some of the Rose City show here in Portland since I've been here, but I have not made a lot of effort to make any appearances at like San Diego or Emerald City or anything like that yet. So
sure. Well, that's Heroes is one of our favorites as well on the channel. I'd say
absolutely.
We had probably the biggest get together of comic art fans, members of the site at this year's Hero. I mean, we had a get together at like the night before kickoff party. So that's definitely a fan favorite show.
It's definitely been my favorite show as well since I've been making comic art. I kind of call it. We even joke around amongst a lot of my comics friends that it's comic book summer camp. So definitely looking forward to making it back out.
Well, we when we're talking with folks, I mean, usually like to get a kind of a background on you as an artist. Sure. There's already mentioned about whether you went to SCAD or whatnot, but so you went to SCAD. I mean, tell me a bit about that, and about how long have you known that you wanted to be a comic book illustrator?
Mm-hmm. So just for while I'm going through, this is a sketchbook of mine that I've been working on. I just kind of wrapped this particular one up about a week ago, and I'll doodle in these just kind of random drawings and stuff over time. But yeah, so I went to SCAD. I graduated in 2013. I had a ton of really incredibly talented classmates that just you know, some of them are still working and doing great things. And my time there was very impactful and influential on me. I've really been pursuing comics as an art form and as a career since about 2009 was when I decided that I wanted to really make a serious push for that. And that's because I've always loved creating stories and making characters and all that sort of thing. So HeroesCon was one of my first. I got a lot of my sequential art education through SCAD.
Mm-hmm.
I've published my first series called MEMETIC in 2014 through Boom Studios, and I successfully made 2 other series with them called COGNETIC and Eugenic. I've also published with Black Mask. I've done some work with DC on Constantine and Gotham City Garage. I've been working with Vault on a series called Heavy for the past couple of years, which is slated to be finished in the next few months. And just like a ton of anthologies and, you know, online art and kind of being in and around the art scene, pushing my skills and getting to know folks and really just appreciating the art form since then. So here we are in 2022, and I'm here to kind of do some sketches and commissions and stuff tonight. So
yeah, awesome. And we'll talk about that too. Before I do, there was a comment from J. Robert Deans, who's in the audience, said, "Yo, Eryk."
Oh, Robert,
how the hell are you? He said that.
Hold on. Before I do it, I'm gonna mute my computer. There we go. We're fine.
He said he missed you at Heroes and Baltimore Comic Con this year.
Miss you too, Robert.
So yeah, and he agreed with you that Heroes is summer camp in Baltimore is the family reunion.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty accurate assessment, especially with the Harvey, or not the Harveys anymore, the Ringos being at the Baltimore Comic Con these days. So,
right, I went to my first Baltimore Comic Con this year, and I missed going to the Ringos, unfortunately, but I had a good time for a first time going to it. You know, I've always heard such good things about it, and it didn't disappoint. That's for sure.
No, absolutely.
So, you know, why don't we, before we, you know, you get started, we actually, if people saw the emails I sent out, we kind of started a list ahead of time. So we've got some sketches already lined up. But sure. As far as tonight goes, I've got 3 pieces that were pre-drawn that we're going to show off, and you can claim it in the normal fashion. If you want to claim it, you know, there'll be lots 1 through 3. We'll show those a little bit later. And, but as far as commissions go, you know, clearly, even with the 4 that we're going to be doing today, we're not going to get through those during the show, but you're more than welcome to let us know that you want one. You can email me, bill@comicartfans.com. But even better, let me just highlight the slide here, because Robert over at Geoff M Art Sales is really better suited to coordinate taking these. And his email address is gmasorders@gmail.com. And if you're not familiar with geoffmart.com, you should definitely check them out. They've been an advertiser on CAF since about the beginning of the year, maybe even a little bit earlier, probably almost a year by now. And, you know, they're definitely a growing business with them as far as art reps. And, you know, I've had a lot of great conversations with Robert over this time. And, you know, again, they've definitely been supportive of us. So I wanted to do whatever I can for the artists that they rep as well, and get some opportunities for them. So tonight you're able to get 3 different size commissions. They're 6x9, 9x12, or 11x14, and I'll show you some examples of those right after this. But expectation on delivery is on the 2 smaller sizes, completed within a couple weeks, and if you do an 11x14, it'll be completed by Christmas. Shipping rates are on there, $15 domestic, $50 international. So let me go ahead and just give you examples on the types of pieces that are going to be offered commission wise today. So the first set is they're 6x9s, so it's a single character bust, and they're $100, very, very affordably priced at 6x9, and just some great examples. Eryk, I really love your style, and I think
thank you.
These are really, they're fun. And you know, I think that let me show the second one, because I actually had a couple extra images here. So actually, the image on the left is one of the pieces that is available tonight too. So I included it in the slide. So for $100, a 6x9 sketch inked wash piece will be yours. And the next size up is 9 by 12. Again, single character with minimal background. And the Targaryen piece on the left is one of the lots also that's going to be available tonight. So
Yep,
you can see, yeah, so full figure pieces on these, and you get a bit of a minimal background. Price on them is $250. And this would be considered in the pieces that should be completed within the 2-week time period if you pick up a commission. And then the 11 by 14 is priced at $400. These are the ones that'll take closer to 4 to 6 weeks to complete, but you get a full, single character, full background. Just really, really solid work here again. And so those are the three levels, and I'll show those again later. But as a reminder, 6 by 9s are 100, the 9 by 12s are 250, and the 11 by 14s are priced at $400. And again, you can mention in the chat that if you want something, but honestly, the best way to do it would be to email Robert at the GMAS orders@gmail.com and let him know that what character you want. Like I always tell you on all the shows, include your mailing address and contact information within it, so it makes everything easy for them to have all that information handy. And then let them know about which characters you want or character you want in your drawing. So and I'll flash the email address throughout the show as well, just so you have that available. So awesome. I assume you're doing a warm up, right, Eryk?
Yeah, this is just a warm up. This is actually a brand new sketchbook that I've just opened up. I usually try to draw in my sketchbook anywhere from every day to a few times a week. Sometimes I'll do a very finished drawing in them. Sometimes I'll just really just sort of scribble around. But for me, a sketchbook is a place to experiment and not to be pressured by any kind of I guess you could say aesthetic sensibility. I'm not so much worried about the craft of my lines or what I'm trying to accomplish. It's more just about making a drawing of any sort. And maybe it comes out really well, or maybe I really think it sucks and I let it go. But the idea for me is to keep a book just somewhere for me to kind of archive that whole process. And I kind of started this even drawing with just sort of scribbling on the page and making some marks that feel very natural to me. And then out of that, I usually just kind of try and see, is there something that my eyes catch in there shape-wise that feels like, a character or a figure or a background even, so I'm just I'm just literally slapping some ink down with my calligraphy pen, and this really is just a warm up for me to kind of be ready to start on those sketches that I'm going to do in a little bit. So
what I wanted to ask you, what was the brand of sketchbook that you're using? Because there seemed to be a lot of pages in that in the one that you flipped through earlier, and
yes.
it wasn't as thick as I thought it was going to be when you actually got to the end of it. So
okay, sure. I like Moleskines a lot. That's what I've been using, not exclusively, but predominantly over the past 5 to 10 years. They have a soft cover, which is what this book is, sketchbook, that's pretty affordable, has a lot of pages in it, but is not either super expensive, or it doesn't feel so fancy that when I get it, I feel suddenly obligated that everything I need to put in the book is really nice.
Mm-hmm.
I have a couple larger hardcover sketchbooks, and I don't know what it is about a hardcover, but when I have a hardcover, I usually feel like some kind of pressure, like what I'm putting in there is going to be some sort of good drawing or finished piece of artwork. And really, I need to just be willing to kind of play with my tools and with my inks. So the soft covers for me have been really nice over the past few years, and I usually kind of doodle on the cover of them as well and make some kind of fun illustration to sort of commemorate that particular book. And so that's what this is. This is I want to say it's a 9 by 12 Moleskine softcover sketchbook, which you could buy for about $20 to $25 at most art supply stores. So
that's pretty fair. I've actually never, you know, I went to art school, so I've had a lot of different sketchbooks before, but never one, never a Moleskine. So I'm curious. You know, my kids are always asking me to buy them sketchbooks. So I think
Yep.
I made a note. I think that's what I'm going to pick up for them next.
Yeah, they're nice. If you're doing a lot of what I would call heavy duty media, i.e. like acrylic paint or oil paint, they're not so ideal for that, but they handle watercolor pretty well. They handle pencil and ink quite well also. And that's most of the work that I do is pencil and ink work. So I will occasionally paint in gouache or watercolor in a Moleskine sketchbook. And they will handle those fine. But if you want to make, like I said, oil painting or work with acrylics, I would recommend something a little more heavy duty. Moleskine does have more heavy duty sketchbooks that you can get in the hardcover variety that have a thicker paper and a thicker tooth. And then there's also some really good sketchbooks by Holbein, as well as Winsor Newton or Render that might also fit that type of work. So,
all right. No, I'm definitely going to check that one out though. It's very interesting. So you said they comes in like a soft cover versus a hardcover.
yes.
All right.
The hardcover ones I have, they have some hardcovers, I think, in this same 9x12 size. I've been doing the soft cover now for the past couple of years, and I'm just really attracted to that. They're easy to carry. Like I said, I don't feel too obligated to the format to go above and beyond necessarily the Call of Duty of what I'm feeling at the moment, which for a sketchbook is really nice, especially because I want to be able to feel free to just kind of experiment and have a good time with my art. So,
right. So as far as professional comic art, when did you get your first big break? You said you graduated in, what was it? Now I'm not even sure, which 2013?
2013, I graduated. I think my first big break, so to speak, was doing an anthology called In the Dark that went through Kickstarter and was published by IDW in late 2014 or early 2015. And that book had just a slew of fantastic comics art talent attached to it. Tradmore did an interior, you know, Steve Niles and Justin Jordan, and I did a job with James Tynan in that. Scott Snyder was a part. I mean, it was just like kind of like a who's who of the moment at that time. And I was invited to make some art with James, and I was very happy to. We got along really well, and that kind of led to a number of other projects that him and I did together with Boom, as well as with Thrillbent, which at the time was a digital-first comics platform making like a web comics sort of deal. And that was kind of like my first big break of getting my name out there alongside some really established folks. Getting to make something that was much more complete than a lot of the kind of portfolio projects I'd done at that time or the webcomics I'd been working on, and led to a lot more work for me down the line. So,
well, that was well. Here, actually, J. Robert Deans wants to know: is that the music anthology?
Oh, playlist, yes. So I did an anthology with a whole bunch of my friends and classmates from SCAD right around that time as well, called Playlist. And that was a very cool project where every short story that was in the book came from an inspiration, and the lyrics of the song became the words of the comic. So they were all officially licensed or permitted from the rights owners, and then were published in a Kickstarter first book called Playlist. They're very hard to get a hold of. It was a minimal print run. I have occasionally seen them at an odd comic store or at a convention since. It's certainly something to keep an eye on. I'm in there. Jorge Corona is in there. Morgan Beam. Just a whole lot of folks, some of whom are still working and have kind of gone on to ascend to sort of some legendary comics heights, as well as just a lot of cool stuff from classmates and friend of ours who were making comics at the time as well. So
you never know who you're going to end up getting to rub elbows with in some of these projects.
Yeah, I mean, certainly so. I think, you know, when you're in a situation like that, it's less about rubbing elbows and more about just making friends with folks who are doing the same thing that you're doing and who are interested in the same things that you're doing. You know, we're all working hard and we're all doing our best, and sometimes that really pays off. And you know, for example, somebody like Jorge has had a slew of hits since then, and but most of us, Rye Hickman, for example, as well, been publishing with Vault and Black Mask, and it's just been a really good crew to kind of come up with as far as the comics scene has been concerned, and that stuff certainly, you never, like you said, you do never know where it's going to lead you. But in the moment, you're just there to try and make good art, you know, and that's always the key.
So when you're working on projects like those and everybody's remote, how do you usually coordinate your meetings? Do you do Zoom calls, or is it all on the phone? I mean, what's the most common way for you to kind of coordinate that kind of work?
Sure. Well, speaking of that particular project, I think most of us were all in Savannah at the time, so it was a lot of very in-person kind of stuff. I mean, I can remember getting my comps delivered to me by hand as I was working at the school library in SCAD, you know. But by and large, a lot of it is email. You know, Zoom. I don't know if Zoom was really sort of the. It was, I feel like it was more Skype at the time was kind of the big thing, and Skype calls were certainly a thing amongst the group, and I occasionally participated in that. I do tend to be pretty quiet and private when it comes to my online presence compared to some folks, so I was there for some of that, and a lot of it was just, you know, talking over the phone or sending emails back and forth. But the in-person stuff is really where, you know, that would kind of shine for me. You know, just getting Chinese food at the restaurant around the corner, or, you know, going out on the weekend and singing karaoke together and having a couple of drinks, you know, like that was kind of the vibe of the time that even still sticks through, you know, when you see each other at Comic-Con once or twice every year or two, and you know, have fun together. So
that's funny. I love watching your work, because one of the things that I noticed in the examples and stuff that you sent was there's a lot of fluidity, you know, in your line work, and it came through just with the way you were putting that together. And now watching you go in there with the white, it's fun to watch. I was curious to see how you handled a lot of that. This is great.
Thank you. Yeah, I've really been trying to allow my hand to move with my line art and with my drawing over the past few years in a way that feels very natural. And rather than trying to sort of force or craft a certain type of line, just to let my hand or my arm move and sort of obey the natural impulse of my physiology, and then use that to kind of work into my craft in a way. So I think that's probably where some of that fluidity comes through. I mean, you can see here, I'm just kind of like messing around with this brush pen, and it's a little messy, and I'm just really doing it more for fun than for anything, probably ruining a nice drawing. But there's something very childlike, I think, in a way about doing that I've been trying to tap into, of just allowing my hand to move and to be, and yet at the same time to wield that to still be creating an image that's very intentional, yet still contains those sort of idiosyncrasies that might be unique to me in some way. And some of that, you know, even just coming through with the pencil work is just like I'm making shapes and kind of seeing what those shapes lead to from a visual for me once I make them, rather than holding a visual first and trying to capture that. I mean, that's a very valid way of working, and that's kind of the way I was taught to work. But it just, with the sketchbook, I like to go from that opposite angle a lot more, of just like letting the marks exist on the paper first and creating an image out of them, rather than going in with a big intent, the way maybe I would with a comic page or a cover or a commission. And I think that kind of like adds a bit of a flavor to the sketchbook work that, at least for me, I find very fun. So
yeah, so you're not beholden to the initial lines you're laying down. You kind of let the whole thing flow.
Exactly.
Yeah, Ronald Shepard in the audience mentioned that they've got a Jack Burton drawing from you from Big Trouble in Little China in their sketchbook, and that reminds me. I think there was a couple pieces on the website that had some Big Trouble in Little China in there. I just thought I'd hop over here. So this is the website where you can check out Eryk's artwork as well and pick up pieces. You can see the other artists that Geoff M Art Sales reps. Eryk's links over there on the left-hand column. But yeah, where was I think that was that in the section? No, it wasn't there. Maybe it was covers. I can't remember where I saw those. Probably was covers. Yeah, there you go. A variant cover. I love that. And Big Trouble in Little China is a film that I saw in the theaters. Just so everybody knows.
Fantastic. It's a classic, man. I mean, I was very glad to be able to contribute some covers to the comic stories a few years back. And I do still have, I believe, both of those original covers still available to be collected if someone is considering it.
Yeah, they are actually still listed as for sale on the site.
Yep. All right. I think this weird skull robot thing is about done. We'll start some serious penciling. I think I'm going to start with the Thing from Fantastic Four from the commissions tonight. And part of that's just like that character is so fun. Mm-hmm. But part of what makes him so fun to draw is that because he's so big and thick and just like kind of made of rocks and stone, and you can kind of play with his design artistically just enough that it's going to feel like him, and you also don't feel like you're having to like really worry about how accurate you're making every single line or shape to capture the character. And that characters like him are just incredibly fun to draw for that reason. So I'm really looking forward to doing his sketch tonight.
Cool. No, that'll be a good one. Let's see. J. Robert Deans is commenting. He said, Eryk's work always reminds me of Kirby when he was drawing aliens or creatures. Just let the nature and fluidity of the brush go. And some of Eryk's most fun stuff has come from that. And when
high praise.
Yeah. And when Eryk focuses and is doing specific creatures, designs, and faces, there are hints of Art Adams with late 80s, early 90s anime. So
you're flattering me there, sir. I don't know that I could ever claim to be anything near those motherfuckers, but I certainly appreciate the sentiment. Absolutely. All right. There's a really messy sketch. I'm going to just step away real quick to the restroom before I start the...
yeah, no problem. I was going to look and see if I can...
But yeah.
Close the door.
Oh, I will. Don't worry.
Or I'll mute your mic for you. But I'm actually going to Ronald Shepard's calf gallery just so we could see. Let me see. Pull that over here. Swing things around a little bit. Let's see. And I'm sure everybody who uses calf, when you know you're looking for an artist, you should always just shoot down into this section. And there's Eryk's name right there. There we go. So yeah, Ronald, so you carry around a sketchbook at most of the shows, huh? That's I haven't done that in a while. When I got started, I was always hauling sketchbooks around with me to most shows, whether it was you know, a nice sketchbook or a sketch pad. I always was leaving them with artists, and I had a business card taped to them so they wouldn't forget who they belonged to. But yeah, that's awesome. But yeah, one of my all-time favorite flicks, though, that is for sure. Let me move it over to here or there. But gosh, it's covering me up too. There we are. But so yeah, you know, I've been wanting to do more shows with artists. Everybody knows that we've done different ways where they've pre-done stuff. We had that nice Vosburg show on Saturday. But this is something I've been wanting to do for a while, just to kind of sit down and hang out, watch somebody draw. I know we get to do these during Comic Art Live quite a bit. You know, at least 2 panels every show seems to be, you know, a show where we've got an artist sketching or whatnot. Typically, I'm not the one getting to host those interviews though during the show, and this time around, it's probably going to be about the same. I think I'll be a part of that Friday show that we've got, where with the sketch event, we did sell 90 of about 100 opportunities that were out there, so it was almost a sellout, but we did pretty well with that. I was happy. We'll see several of the artists on Friday evening getting, you know, doing their work from that, so that'll be a lot of fun. J. Robert Deans wanted to know, Ronald, what show was the Jack Burton done at? I'm sure you'll let him know in the chat. So we were showing off the Jack Burton that you did for Ronald.
Oh, hell yeah.
Little, you know, hints of color on that one.
Yes. I have always felt that color can bring something extra to the comic art that the black and white does not. But the black and white has really kind of been my go-to most of the time. So I've been slowly teaching myself paint and color along the way, and it's somebody like Ron has been very kind of giving to me and allowing me to play with some of that in a commission. So all those pieces are, you know, part of the artistic journey, you know.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I assume that Ronald took it to a con, but he said that he mails his books out. That's
that particular one, yes, I do believe he had mailed to me a few years back, and I did the piece in. So I kind of like that. I mean, drawing at a convention is, you get used to it, but there's always a level of stress that I feel like being able to draw at home and take your time without, you know, the time constraints of either trying to have the piece done by the end of the afternoon for someone who's leaving to make it home, or just to kind of be drawing in front of people while you're in the middle of, you know, also, you know, wanting to sign books or talk to people who want to talk to you about some previous work that you've done. Just having that kind of mental freedom at home is really nice. So I am always a big fan of stuff like this, where you can kind of commission me outside of the con, and I can spend a little bit of extra time on it that maybe wouldn't happen on a show floor, to think about. But I certainly always try at a convention to make the best of every drawing that I do, you know.
Yeah, it's cool. Lee Parmenter is also in the chat and mentioned that you had done a Batman Joker commission for him as well. So I'm highlighting that. Showing
Awesome.
that piece off too.
Yeah, I have been very lucky to have a lot of lovely folks support me over the years with con commissions. And I hope that every year that, you know, someone gets a new commission for me, they can feel like there's been an upgrade from a year before. But regardless, every time I do one, I'm always trying to do my best with it, and to make it something special and unique for that person. I don't really like to to have a go-to like pose or image that I draw over and over. I try and make everything, you know, kind of unique and intrinsic to the moment. So I'll occasionally have a cover or an image that people really like and want something close to, and I'll occasionally try and replicate that at least a little bit for them. But I far prefer to do something unique and original every time, as close as I can at least. So.
No, I can, you know, I'm drawing at cons is never an easy thing for an artist, I'm sure, you know. So maybe some guys or gals are comfortable when they're working at shows, but you know, I have to imagine sometimes, you know, you want to relax, you don't want it to feel like work. I think the opportunity to take some of those home has to be, you know, a pleasure to have those types of commission opportunities versus doing them while you're trying to enjoy yourself at a con a little bit.
Absolutely. All right, I think we're gonna put this one away. I think that black here kind of popped it out just and kind of gave it a nice finish that 5 minutes ago I didn't feel like it quite had. Which, cool, great. We're gonna just put a little white in here extra for fun for myself. All right.
Under the cover.
So I think we're going to move to the thing now.
All right.
I've got, that's a 6x9, I believe.
Yes, that is correct.
So, usually with these, you know, I'll look up, I'm certainly familiar with the character. I've not done any kind of studies for this ahead of time, but I'll try and bring some reference up so that I have some, whether you want to call them official or professional incarnations of the character to look at. But then I also want to, of course, try and find a way to feel like I'm kind of capturing him and making him my own at the same time. So let's see here. I know that Michael Chiklis's thing, I think, as far as the film was concerned, is really the one that I think of, but also like Michael Ringo's thing in the comics just has such life and energy.
I would agree. Yeah, Ringo really, you know, out of all the characters, the FF characters, I mean, the Thing was just so, he was so suited to draw the Thing, wasn't he?
Oh, certainly so. Let's see here.
J. Robert Deans wanted to know if he should send me the shakes that you did for him. Speaking of unique.
Yeah, go for it if you want. It's been a while. I don't know. What was that, 2013 or 2014 I did that? Robert had a cow comic character he hired me to draw a couple images of.
So saw print?
Yeah, of some sort. I'm not sure exactly how Robert went about printing that, but I remember doing pencils and inks and colors for that. So
yeah, artist Jeffrey Moy mentions that Burns' Thing is the definitive version for him. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, hell yeah.
John drew a really great thing, that's for sure. I mean, he was I mean, well, yeah. I mean, I'd put it up there as well. I mean, everybody knows I love John Burns, so
oh yeah.
You can't go wrong with most of his characters.
True legend right there. Let's see. I'm just kind of sketching right now. I don't know if this is going to be indicative of the final or not, but I've got a few images I'm looking at and trying to think of, you know, this character and sort of I do like the sort of the upshot, right? Because it's a very heroic shot for any character, and a lot of it is like it's almost placing you in the position of, and certainly someone smaller if you're talking about a really hulking and massive comics character, but it's also kind of like puts you in the position of being a child again and looking up at a hero, and I think that's part of what makes that kind of particular pose so powerful visually. Let's see here.
J. Robert Deans mentions that Shakes has now been in 6 children's books.
Well, congrats, Robert. I'm glad to hear that.
And I'm not familiar with what Shakes is, so you should send me something there, Robert. I'd appreciate it. You can email me at bill@comicartfans.com, unless it's in your cap gallery and you have one. Send me a link to that.
Let's see here. Now, Robert has been self-publishing some children's books over the past, 5 to 8 years that I can recall. And Shakes is one of his comics characters, I believe. So
I should just Google it and I'll find out. Let's see. But so, I mean, what kind of? I mean, I've looked at some of the stuff you've done in the past. I mean, are you working on some new projects that are coming out now, or that are going to be something that we're going to be seeing sometime in the near future?
Sure. So right now, I have been working on a, it was ostensibly a monthly book, and it has not been for some time, for Vault, called Heavy.
Okay.
Which is about an interdimensional hitman in the afterlife who's trying to work his way into heaven by essentially doing hits for God / the powers that be, right? With the idea that if he does enough of these really, kind of vicious, violent kills for them, he'll earn his way into heaven and be reunited with his ex-wife. So it's kind of like a Punisher meets Preacher in the afterlife story. I've been working on that since early 2020. And also I've been dealing with a lot of issues in my personal life with an accident that injured my drawing hand and some other things that have kind of added some extra strain onto that. And not counting, of course, COVID and all the kind of like craziness that's been a part of general life for the past few years. So unfortunately, that, like I said, that's not been a monthly book, but we're at the very end of a 10-issue series. I'm currently working on the last chapter of pages, and that will be out. That is a very adult-oriented book. It is certainly not for kids. But I'm also right now working on putting together a young adult book with some other comics pros and some of my own work and a few other things that I'm hoping more folks will see in the near future. The last, aside from Heavy, full kind of like completed body of comics work that I've done is a short story that will be published in the Astroneer comic book early next year through Titan. And Astroneer is a video game about essentially being an astronaut in a kind of survival style building game, which you can kind of make your own character in the game, but the story that I worked with features a lot of characters who are made especially for that world, who follow their own storylines. So it was a really fun kind of like comedy meets horror thriller, featuring some of these characters and designs that was a lot of fun to work with. So, and other than that, yeah, I mean, I'm working on commissions, and I will have some more other comics work out in the near future as well. So,
cool. And Aditya, yes, this is Ben Grimm from the Fantastic Four. You got it.
That is correct. Yeah. I guess this is kind of my take. I'm taking some inspiration from some other very talented artists, as well as the designs from some of the films, and kind of just coming with an amalgam of them. I feel like his face kind of needs to be a little more. He's got this like almost skull shape to his cheeks that I want to make sure I capture here, at least in the film version that I really like. Kind of gives him a creepy aspect that like this character is so friendly and he's also so dangerous and scary all at once. I really like that about him.
Yeah, I'm curious how they're going to end up portraying him in the Marvel universe once he makes it there. You know how. I'm assuming it won't follow that Michael Chiklis look. You know, it's probably going to be something a little more CGI, right?
Yeah,
or like the
probably
Hulk has done,
so.
or Thanos. You know, it'll. I can't imagine what it's going to look like.
I did personally really enjoy the Marvel Universe Thanos perspective. I thought his look on screen was really interesting and exciting.
Well, it definitely wasn't what I expected, but it came off so well, right? It was so
Yeah,
believable, and that was the surprising part. I just expected it to be hokey, and it
yeah.
wasn't. You know,
No,
it felt real the whole time.
it felt real. I mean, they did a very good job, I thought, of making him both such a hated character and yet still gave him enough kind of humanity to be sympathetic to his perspective, even while you recognized how twisted, the actions he was taking, what he was doing, and I think that really makes a compelling character on screen, is giving them that complexity. So
Are you looking forward to the Black Panther movie?
the Wakanda Forever, I am looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah.
Um, it's going to be really hard to replace Chadwick. I've
Right.
not read any reviews. I've not read any spoilers for it. I
Right.
typically try not to do that to myself before going and seeing anything that I'm excited about, whether it's a Marvel movie or an indie film. But I was actually just looking at a trailer for it tonight before I started this, and it does look really good. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. I actually just saw the Banshees of Inisherin the
Mhm.
other night, and I found that to be incredibly hilarious and compelling. I'm not necessarily a huge fan of anyone involved, but it was executed so well. The script is hilarious, and it's a uh, very excellently crafted character piece that I think anyone who's into story and writing and character would absolutely be interested in watching. So, all right. I think his face is a little fat, so I'm going to get the eraser out. See what I can do here.
Yeah. I have not seen that yet though, but I've heard good things.
Yeah, I really liked it. I feel like I'll probably end up seeing it multiple times because there's enough to kind of unpack in the kind of script writing sense of it that I'm very interested in. But yeah, I think Wakanda Forever is probably going to be on the docket for the next week or two. For that good Marvel excitement. I have not kept up as much with the Marvel movies since Endgame.
Mm-hmm.
I was watching them kind of religiously up to that. But I've tried to catch a few. I liked the Eternals last year, and when they come on Disney Plus now, especially, I'll try and give them a watch.
Yeah, I've seen a few there. I haven't seen them all in the
Yeah.
theaters, but I don't know. I didn't like Eternals as much. I mean, maybe I have to see it again. But I didn't really like the last Doctor Strange either. The writing seems to not be on the same par. I mean, and again, it's Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
shouldn't expect great super great things. That just I want to be entertained, but I just felt like the story, the plot just kind of was too simple, and the
Mm-hmm.
character, the writing for the characters wasn't really well done. I didn't
Right.
feel the same terror or sympathy for any of the characters in it. It was just like,
Right.
I think it's almost like they expect you to know everything when you go into them sometimes, and I felt that way with the Doctor Strange movie. But I don't know. I'm hopeful for seeing some X-Men characters and the Fantastic Four.
Right.
and I think that might help them shake it up a little bit. But I'm not sure about Black Panther. I mean, like you said, it's hard to. That was one of my that and Iron Man 1 were my two favorite Marvel movies.
Iron Man 1 was just, you know, a stunning achievement. I felt like, especially for the time in superhero cinema, like there was nothing like it. And it really kind of elevated the superhero genre into cinema, right?
Mm-hmm.
In a way that, like, I mean, I guess probably the closest in my mind up to that point was either the Batman films, Sin City 300, or maybe the X-Men films from the late 90s that, you know, I kind of grew up on. But that original Iron Man film just really hit so many target kind of checkpoints for me that maybe I didn't even realize I had up to that. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. Like, I love this world and these characters and these stories. I feel like this is not looking as much like him as I want it to. I think he needs a bigger jowl here. I'm just going, you know, I'm just drawing and drawing.
Maybe he needs a cigar.
You know what? Let's see here.
But yeah, I know what you mean. I went into the first Iron Man not really knowing what to expect, and Downey Jr. just, you know, he made the role, but the story was just so well done too that
right,
yeah, it just set the tone for everything. It was great.
Yeah,
and I'm a big Thor fan, and I wouldn't rank any of the Thors, you know, at the top of my favorite list. I mean, all the Avengers movies were great, but
sure,
yeah. So
I think Helmsworth casting for Thor is excellent. But you know, there were some very great action set pieces in Thor Ragnarok that I really appreciated. And there were a few good comedic character moments in the first Thor movie that really responded to. But I did feel like his character shined the most when he was in the entourage with the rest of the Avengers, more so than on his single original film. All right, we're gonna just start over here. It's a good warm up.
There you go. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. If Loki wasn't on screen with him, it wasn't the same, I guess, in a way. But so video games. I mean, is that something you're into?
I do enjoy games. Yeah, I've enjoyed games most of my life. I was very into games and anime as a teenager, and you're kind of talking about like what brought you into comics. The comics that I read growing up was like Calvin and Hobbes. I occasionally got my hands on some you know, original, like the original strips of Superman and Batman and Captain America stuff that you know, very kind of legendary comics work. But kind of the way that I grew up was in a much more conservative household. We didn't have a lot of comics to just pick up at the grocery store or anything like that. So when it came down to it, a lot of it was just what I had access to either at a library or through friends. And a lot of that ended up being more in kind of anime and video games department. And it wasn't until I got a little older that I started reading more comics. I read things like Blankets and Criminal Macabre and 30 Days of Night. That kind of made me go like, oh, wow, there's this whole other approach to comics art that I'd never seen before, that made me really excited about drawing. And then through that, going back through and reading a lot of these, you know, different runs of Marvel or DC, or just picking up what was on the shelf at the time. And at that time too, you know, Vertigo was still around.
Sure.
And Vertigo books were a really big influence on my early comic career. You know, 100 Bullets, for example, Scalped, you you know, Preacher and Northman and all sorts of things that I was just, you know, picking up either as it was coming out or coming out in trade. And I think there was an X-Force that Rick Remender and Jerome Pena were drawing at the time that just like blew me away artistically. And so I started like reading a lot more of the, you know, kind of direct market comics at that point. And that would have been, you know, late 2010s into the, or late 2000s into the early 2010s, I should say.
Yeah, I loved playing games early on, but I haven't had any time. Feels like in the last 20 years. But I still get PC Gamer magazine. I love reading about that, you know, what's out there and what people are playing. I just don't have time to do it myself anymore. But
totally. Well, nice they can definitely be very time consuming. Anytime I play games, I try and pick games that, you know, I certainly won't know if I like a game before I play it, but I have a good sense of things that I generally will like. And so I try to get things that I think I'll like, but also will maybe challenge me in a new way or give me some kind of, you know, like artistic inspiration. Elden Ring came out this year, which is a fantasy role-playing game that is meticulously crafted from top to bottom. Some of probably the best art direction and art design of any video game in the past 10 years, as far as I'm concerned, and has just some brilliant characters and story and lore created either by George R.R. Martin or by the, you know, the designers in the studio basing off of his original concepts that he did. But that one's been a big inspiration. I have actually been really enjoying the Cyberpunk game that was a huge disaster on its initial release because it was not a finished product, but still has some really interesting story and character moments, and has since been really kind of fixed up and put into a place that it is much more pleasant to experience now than it was a couple years ago when it first came out. So that's another one that I've been really enjoying. Soul Hackers I picked up this year from Altus, which made the Persona games. I was a very big Final Fantasy player in my teens. So all the Final Fantasy games kind of hold a special place in my heart in a way. I don't know if I want to do this version of his crest here.
Yeah, I never played Final Fantasy. I always thought about it, but it was just one that I never got to. I played more first-person shooters and stuff. I always thought.
It's my laptop in the background. It went to screensaver. And come on. Can you?
I know that feeling.
Yep. Here we are. It's okay. All right.
But
Final Fantasy is very interesting.
Say that again?
In its own right. I said Final Fantasy, I think, is very interesting in its own right. I think what compels me the most about it, frankly, has always been the art direction. The art direction of those games are really something else. Even if they're not necessarily a style of art that everyone, you know, especially they're a very animated Japanese anime or manga style, but especially when it comes to their monsters and supernatural creatures, but also the character designs, I just always felt like were really interesting and compelling. And they've certainly influenced me a lot, even if they don't always show up in the most direct fashion in my art. I love that stuff. Yoshitaka Amano and Tetsuya Nomura, and even a lot of the Kojima games, like, you know, Metal Gear Solid at the time. So, and so, yeah, I kind of look at games like Elden Ring or something like that now in a similar way, where as much as I'm appreciating the design itself, I'm also kind of looking at the craft of the concept art and the world building, and trying to figure out, you know, where that kind of plays for me in my world creation or character creation for my own characters or for a project that I'm working on.
Sure. Yeah, that's why I like PC Gamer. I mean, they still, you know, usually the front third of the book is things that are coming out, and you get to see a lot of progress things and art and things that went into the art design, concept sketches, that kind of thing. I really enjoy that part of it. I tend to not read the game reviews. You know, I just I like to look and see what they're doing, what's coming out, and you know, what they think is interesting. But it's all that progress stuff that I really enjoy. I mean, it's things invariably don't always end up the way they plan them, but I think it's just a part of the whole process in gaming that I enjoy. I mean, I used to like creating my own levels to games when I was younger and had a lot of time. So I think that stuff still, you know, is pretty interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I got my kids Oculuses for Christmas a few years ago.
Oh, very cool.
Oh my gosh, that was fun. Unfortunately, I don't get motion sickness, so that was a good thing. But that was a very unique experience. If you've have you tried it before?
I have spent very little time with the Oculus or any of the VR, but I have a few friends who work in game design, and they've all spoke very highly of it. I do have a system capable of handling that. And I've done a little bit of that at like a friend's house, but it's mostly been for games like Beat Saber or something that are very, very different from playing a game like Half-Life Alyx or something, or Resident Evil, where you're really kind of like in the character's shoes, walking around an environment. It's more just playing in the VR space with the kind of shapes or, you know, physical reactions you'd need in space to like hit the blocks or something. And
yeah, I found I'm not good at that at all.
Yeah, no, same, exactly. Like, this is a whole new style of gaming for me. Like, I think it's exciting.
Coordinated to do it. Yeah, if it's like DDR, you know, everybody in my family practically will go out and do DDR 2 or 3 times a week if they could do it, you know, at the local gaming establishment. But you know, I can't do it. I have absolutely no coordination. And they play Beat Saber and they'll go through the whole thing and not make a mistake. And I've tried it. I mean, I can't get through an easy level. It just doesn't work. I was really good in games where you just could fire a rocket in a general area at somebody, and that was what usually how I got through.
Halo, baby.
Right, exactly. I needed as much splash damage as possible because I was not good at targeting it whatsoever.
Yeah, no, I very much enjoyed a lot of those, you know, first-person shooters in the early to mid 2000s. Like Halo and stuff like that. And I'd play, you know, I used to work at GameStop years ago, and we would do kind of big gaming nights where we'd get a whole bunch of people to bring their consoles together, and we'd all play first-person shooters or something, or like Soul Calibur. Was a fighting game at the time that I really liked the designs and the characters. So of course I was intrigued, and then I found it really fun to play. If I could get good at 1 or 2 of the characters and, you know, beat people in my local arcade. But yeah, these days, most of that, I haven't really played first-person shooters too much since that aforementioned accident. And most of what I've played since has been, you know, role-playing games or something that's a little slower paced. or something like maybe Elden Ring or Dark Souls, that while it may not be slow paced per se, you can kind of memorize the attacks or the moves that you need to do. I'm certainly no skilled Fortnite player by any means. It's kind of fun watching people play those battle royale games, but I think at this point, yeah, those are outside of my purview.
Yeah. No,
aside from just appreciating watching.
Yeah, I think when the games got to be so online that you know, you were hearing other people talking, that's when I kind of got but you know, that's, which is silly, because I used to go to LAN parties all the time, you know, haul my PC, and you're sitting in a room with 20 other people, so it really wasn't any different. But there was just something, I don't know, there was something, you know, sitting in your house and hearing somebody who might be, you know, 10 years your junior tell you to go do something, and I just
trash talking.
Yeah, like,
well,
this isn't the same experiences I remember.
No, well, look, here's the thing that's kind of funny about that is, much like you, I used to play LAN parties and play with people in person, and certainly I don't think the trash talking has changed, but the difference is that the repercussions of your trash talking when your friend is in the other room versus being someone who's potentially hundreds or thousands of miles away from you is very different. Because if you want to have a big mouth, you can have a big mouth. But if you don't watch yourself, you know, he can walk in there and give you a smack.
Yep.
And certainly in my groups, whether it was me or someone else, that would happen on occasion. And it teaches you a lot. You know, it's almost like kittens playing together. I don't know if you like cats. I like cats a lot. But
I've been only a cat person all my life, and that's not
right.
I have nothing against dogs. It's just that was never been our thing.
Well, you know, when kittens are little, they're playing with each other, and they learn how to play without using their claws, right? Or just use their claws just enough, and they learn because they're playing with other cats. But a cat that might be separated from a litter or from other kittens too young, they don't usually learn that, and so they might think they're playing, but they play kind of too rough. And I think it kind of it's a similar kind of thing when it comes to like the online trash talking, where that's not to excuse potentially like egregious behavior or anything, but it's more just that, like, there's no repercussions for a lot of people for the things they say or do, and so they feel like they can say or do anything, and it's like, you wouldn't say that to my face, homie. Trust me. We both know it. You know it, but you also know that there's no repercussions, so you're just going to kind of go off on your whole vibe. And yeah, I mean, that's not me. I try to usually just, you know, when I play games and stuff, I used to play, and here we're talking about games as I'm drawing comics, but I think a lot of comics people like games. You know, I played Destiny for quite some time. I have some tattoos here on my arm. Destiny is a great first-person shooter game. It's from the original creators of Halo, but you know, I was able to find people to play with online who are more or less my own age, and it just kind of like was really nice. It prevented me from having to deal with a lot of that kind of lobby behavior that would have just made me tired, frankly.
I get it. I do.
You know, so finding a community of people of like-minded people to play with, I think, is important. But the same goes for comics and stuff too. You know, you want to be around people that you feel challenged by. You know, you feel like you have something to work for, but you also don't want to be around people who are just incredibly toxic all the time. So,
yep, we know a bit about that in this hobby. There's always something somewhere, everywhere. It doesn't matter if it's gaming or collecting beer cans. I think of
there's something, right? Yeah.
But hey, you know what? While you're doing that, why don't I show those three pieces that you had pre-done and sent through Robert to me to kind of show
Sure,
that
let's
that's
do
okay
it.
with you while you're working on that.
Absolutely.
Let me hide a few things here, move a few things around. So yeah, we Eryk did 3 pieces ahead of time, 2 of the $100 6x9 pieces, and then 1 of the 9x12. So these are the 3 lots we have available. If you want them, just you can claim them in the chat. Just say claim the lot number, and you'll be emailing that address I showed you guys earlier, the gmasorders@gmail.com, and letting Robert know that you pick that up if you claim it in the chat. And then, of course, when you do email them, of course, include your mailing address. That makes everything easier, getting your invoices out and like that. So let's see. The first one was for lot number 1 was a She-Hulk 6x9 and priced at $100.
I've got this here with me. So.
Oh, good. I wasn't sure if you had them or if they were with Robert yet, but no, that's awesome.
I still have them currently. So this is the She-Hulk here, 6x9.
Here, I've actually got a slide, but I'll go ahead and show it. There you go.
Sure. Yeah. Do a little bit of both. I'll just kind of try and put it here on the. Maybe that's a little better.
Yeah. Well, I can show the slide. I've actually got a big image. I can. But
it's,
no,
it's a nice scan. Yeah. Absolutely.
So there looks like some red pencil. Is the blue? Is that pencil, or is that like it was maybe it was like laid out digitally? I can't tell from the scan.
Yep. So a lot of the time, if you get me at a show, it's all going to be just kind of like this thing that I'm working on right now, pencil straight on the 6x9. But when I'm making pages for publication, I usually do digital pencils now, and so this is what the blue is.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that because you can actually see, some of the process stuff where maybe I made some decisions later in the inks. And hopefully that's going to be something that, if you're an art collector or interested in sort of the craft of it, you'll find to be interesting. It really depends on the piece. Like some of them, pages or something I've had with this process, you won't see a lot. But this particular one, after I printed it out, I was looking at it again and I thought, like, oh, I kind of want to move the arm. And so there is a little bit of red in here where I used a red pencil to draw back onto over that lightly printed out layout. But all of the inks, of course, are traditional.
Yeah, no, it's a really great. Her face is beautiful. And just so you know, we did have a claim on that artwork. Winter Powell picked that up. Thank you, Winter. That's
awesome. Thank you.
Addition. Yeah, nice addition to your collection. And thank you for doing the sketch event too, Winter. I saw your name in the list when I was doing the randomizing the other day. I did get all the lists out to all the artists for that too over the weekend. So I don't recall who you got, Winter, but I'm sure you might be able to see them drawing on Friday. But yeah, fantastic. Thank you. Let me move that around. So next piece. The next piece, I was not sure. I actually had to go and read a comic because I wasn't sure who the character was. But so you could tell, maybe you'll tell me a bit about them. So on lot number 2. This Chainsaw Man, lots of action and detail on this one, but I didn't know who Chainsaw Man was until I Googled it and then read a comic online.
Yep. So Chainsaw Man is a manga character. As I understand him, he's essentially a schoolboy who ends up getting the power / curse of being Chainsaw Man, which is he kind of turns into this mechanized chainsaw head that has its own engine built in that he can kind of fight and battle with, and also his hands and arms, which being that this is a headshot, you don't see, but his hands and arms become chainsaws as well. So it's a very interesting kind of fun design. Most of the detail and sort of like what makes his character stand out has to do with sort of his body physiology. He typically wears a very classic Japanese style school outfit of like a white t-shirt, collared shirt with a tie and slacks. You'll see he's a very popular comic con cosplay character too, if you've been to any shows in the past 2 years. And also just recently an anime came out on that I think you can stream on Hulu right now, as well as maybe some other anime streaming apps. I've yet to watch it. I've been meaning to. I've heard it has spectacular animation, so I'm really looking forward to like taking the time to actually watch it, not just kind of like have it on in the background while I'm doing something else. But he's a very fun character to draw. And this was my first attempt, my first take on him. So
yeah, he's not somebody to want to run into in a dark alley. That's for
yeah,
sure.
probably not. Right?
Yeah, I don't know. I can't even think. I watch whatever my kids are watching. I love My Hero Academia though. That's probably
yes,
one of my favorites. But yeah, this one
absolutely
wasn't as familiar with. But as soon as you said seeing people cosplay this, I think I have seen people cosplay this costume now.
I've seen some extremely advanced, meticulously crafted, meticulously detailed cosplays of him, and I've also seen some that are like that really fun, just like we got a couple cardboard boxes at the store and we spray painted them and taped them together, and it like kind of gets the silhouette and we're just going to have a fun time walking around. And I think that's a fun thing about this character too, that it doesn't need to be, you go to New York Comic Con and you watch someone walking around in like a Hulk smasher like Iron Man suit, and you're like, you've been working on that thing for 2 years.
Right.
And you can see people who've really put the time and effort into their Chainsaw Man costumes, and also someone who just want to have some fun and put it together over the weekend. So
well, I agree. Well, this one's still available, and I should note that anybody who watches the shows after the fact, if something doesn't get claimed while we show it here, you're more than welcome to email the address that I don't have on the screen right now, do I? But there's the address right there. You can always claim something after the show if it doesn't get claimed during it. And as well, I mean, as we know, a lot of our European audience watches the show after the fact. You're more than welcome to shoot them an email and inquire about the commission opportunities too. So this one's still out there. I'll show you everybody the third piece, and this will be the final piece that was pre-done. And this is that Game of Thrones Daemon Targaryen piece. It's on 9x12, priced at $250, and there's some zipatone in this one, right?
There is, yes. I did zipatone for Caraxes, his dragon. I was not initially sold on House of Dragons when it first released about 2 months ago. I watched the first episode, and I liked Game of Thrones a lot, but it didn't quite hit for me, and I decided I'd wait till the rest of the series was out, and then kind of decide if I wanted to watch it again. And so once it had wrapped up, I decided to give it another go. Started from the beginning, fresh, rewatched the first episode or two, and by the third episode, and that's kind of what inspired this particular image, where Daemon goes in alone to fight the crab feeder and all of his soldiers on the beach, and he kind of goes in with a white flag and pretends like he's about to surrender, draws his sword and holds it up as if he's going to surrender it. And then as soon as they get close, he turns on them and just starts attacking them. And then under a volley of arrows, of which he takes some injuries, he manages to hide. And then one of the other dragon riders comes in and assists him and turns the whole tide of the battle. And that episode ends with him off screen chasing the crab feeder into a cave and then dragging his kind of
what's left
body out of the cave and leaving it in the muck and the filth of the beach. And I just, I was completely enthralled at that point. I was like, I don't know, where else this show is going to go, but this is hitting a lot of these like Game of Thrones notes that made me really interested in the original series when it was first out. And I enjoyed the rest of the series as well. So, but he's probably one of the most compelling characters in all of Game of Thrones to me. And it was really fun to draw him, and his dragon as well, which is a very unique dragon. The body shape of this dragon is kind of obscured here from the way that I composed it, but most of the other dragons are much more compact, and his dragon is a very long and kind of spindly and twisted dragon, one of the biggest ones as well in the world. So,
well, I have to say that one was claimed by Winter Powell as well, who's a huge fan.
Thank you, Winter.
And I really like the new series as well. I went into it thinking I was just going to hate it. That I didn't think I was going to like his acting, honestly. I don't know. I just had this, preconceived ideas that it wasn't going to be good, and I was pleasantly surprised that it
Yes.
was as good as it was. I mean, I'm sold. I mean, I'm looking forward to the rest of the series now. But
I am
like
too.
you, I was scared. Even after the first episode, I thought, well, I'm going to stick with it.
Yep.
It's
See
Game
what
of Thrones.
happens.
I gotta like it.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. No, I was kind of right there with you. You know, I watched the first episode, and there were certainly some compelling things happening. I think the highlight of that first episode was the joust, the tournament, uh, as far as an action scene was concerned. And much like the original Game of Thrones, you don't really know the characters yet. So you're sort of watching them doing things, interacting with each other, behaving in certain ways. And it hasn't really fleshed out into any kind of broader meaning yet. And I think with the original Game of Thrones, I had a similar sort of issue where I'm watching all these characters doing things, and I didn't really feel particularly drawn or compelled to any of them off the bat. And then as I watched them grow and change, giving them as a viewer a few more chances in the story to kind of draw me in, then you go like, oh, I understand who this character was, and all of a sudden that thing that they said 2 hours ago in an episode means a totally different thing to me now, and I want to kind of go back and rewatch that and understand. And so I am, also very excited to see where House of Dragons goes. I hope they don't try to make it into another 5 or 7 series long episode, but or show. But if it can go, another 2 to 3 seasons, maybe, I feel like there's enough that it could be really compelling all the way through.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did enjoy it. I haven't gotten my wife Maureen to watch it yet, but it's on her list. She finally got through the Lord of the Rings over on Amazon, so Game of Thrones is next for her. That was tough watching both of those shows at the same time. I don't know if you watched Lord of the Rings, but I typically tend to wait till a series like that is over so I can just watch it straight through. But it was tough because I wanted to see both series so much that watching them both, one on Friday and the other on Sunday, and then waiting around, I don't know. I don't want to go through an experience like that again. Because
I think I watched the first 2 Rings of Power episodes, and I will probably watch the remainder of it. But similar to you, I just kind of was a bit fatigued at the moment when it came out to watch both at the same time, and I just decided I was going to let them both play out. Since I couldn't watch them all at once, I figured I would sort of let them be. And House of Dragons is the one that I've now finished. And I think I'll probably watch Rings of Power in full sometime over this holiday season. I usually make a habit of rewatching the original Lord of the Rings films in their entirety and kind of like a film marathon during the Christmas season. So I think I'll kind of include Rings of Power into that this year and enjoy it. And whether it's going to be a big part of my, Lord of the Rings fandom or not, we'll see. But I did really enjoy with that, I will say, kind of how they'd set up some of the characters like Sauron and the magic of the orcs. And I assume, no spoilers, hopefully not, sorry, anyone who hasn't or knows more than me, because I don't, but the falling star, I believe Mithrandir, Gandalf character, that I was like, okay, this is like a cool setup for this that I'm looking forward to seeing more of, but have not yet.
They handled it all very well, I can tell you that.
That's great to hear.
Yeah, I enjoyed it thoroughly. But yeah, because of that, and I've been in the middle of a move all summer. I haven't watched that the Captain Marvel series. I haven't watched I haven't seen She-Hulk. What else did I skip? I haven't seen that the Werewolf by Night yet.
Okay.
I'm yeah.
Well, the nice thing is you can watch them anytime, right? Now that you've got Disney Plus.
Exactly. I mean, right. I've got it. I've got an ultra wide monitor, so typically, you know, I multitask all day. I really could be watching something while I'm working,
Right.
but I find that I don't work very well when I've got a show going on.
Certainly
Unfortunately,
so.
I'm not. Yes, a lot of friends that I have, they're used to, you know, watching that, or even, you know, other shows on YouTube. You know, they'll just listen to it, and I just can't do it.
Right.
For me, I gotta keep my eye on it, or it just doesn't feel right for me.
I'm there with you, especially when it comes to anything that is predominantly animated. I want to watch as much of that hand craftsmanship as possible. I really enjoyed, you know, watching the House of Dragons, and then I kind of, as I was working on the piece, just had it playing in the background as on like a second playthrough, right, where I'd already seen it, so I knew I wasn't like ostensibly missing anything, but I could also kind of have it there if I looked up to see the characters, or, you know, watching the story progress. Yeah, I'm right there with you. You know, I try not to watch things for the first time where I'm not really able to give them my full attention. But it is also relaxing to kind of have something like that going on in the background.
Yeah, I tend
think
to sort of, I'll listen to Audacity. I'll put some kind of some music on. I do listen to music a lot during the day.
Oh yeah, same here.
Shows, yeah, I can't do it. I wish, but
yeah.
But yeah, I finally found a nice alternative station down, you know, in I'm in the Florida area, but I found a good a station that I actually plays something that I haven't found them to play a song that I don't like yet, even if I don't know what it is. So
that's great.
Yeah.
I actually grew up in Pensacola.
Okay, cool.
About 18, so I have some good fond memories of the Florida rock stations in my teens.
Yeah, my daughter's going to Full Sail in Orlando, and my youngest, she's a senior in high school this year, but she hopes to go to Ringling. So
fantastic.
We finally made the move down here from Ohio after living there, you know, all my life. So but I want to be near the kids while they're going to school.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's something I got to say about Florida interstates that really hits a big nostalgic factor for me. Every time I'm, you know, you're just on that long drive where it's just rows of palm trees and, you know, kind of open road that just really speaks to my soul a little bit. And it's been a while since I've been back, but the few times I have, you know, it's just like, oh.
Well, there's nothing but open road.
You know, yeah, absolutely.
If you're not in a big city, yeah, you can see that's the hardest thing to get used to where I'm at is, you know, I can see pretty much a mile in any direction for the most part, right? And where I was at before, you know, I could barely see my next door neighbor because of all the trees and stuff. But yeah, here it's funny. I mean, so yeah, but it's nice. It's actually kind of neat to kind of look around and see you've got all this space around you.
Sure. Were you guys there for the hurricane last month or so?
Yeah, but we're north of Orlando, so that one went south of Orlando when it cut through. So it was windy, but the weather wasn't that, you know, wasn't really that bad. And I think there's another one on its way. He's supposed to be here in the next day or two, but
Florida lifestyle, man.
Exactly. So I'll, you know, I don't know. I'm getting used to it, but you know, as long as it's just windy, I can deal with that.
Right. This guy's got so many great, just that rocky texture of his skin. I don't know. I find it incredibly cathartic to just kind of draw this in here. Hopefully it looks good once I get rid of the pencil underdrawing, but
So why the move to the West Coast? I mean, was it work? Was it lifestyle?
maybe a little bit of both. You
Yeah.
know, I've been living in Savannah for a while. I used to be married, and we had split. I'd been living in Savannah, enjoying my time there, but you know, I wasn't really working at the school. I'd been there. I'd also been graduated for some years, and it just felt like it was time for something new for me on my horizon.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of great comics community here in Portland, whether it's the kind of local indie zine scene, whether you're talking about Image or Dark Horse or Oni Press. All of that kind of appealed to me in coming out. And I also had some family that was here at the time that had kind of suggested to me, like, Portland's awesome, dude. I think you'll like it. So I just figured, you know, hey, if I wanna live somewhere new in the country that I haven't been, I grew up in Pensacola, as I mentioned, and as well as, you know, some time up in the Northeast. And I just felt like I wanted to see kind of what the West Coast art life would be like. So I've been in here in Portland now since 2018. I do really enjoy it. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on out here. I've made some good friends and community. Yeah, we'll see, you know, whether I stay here long term or end up, you know, somewhere else. I've kind of always had that desire to kind of travel and see new places and new things. And I don't think that's going to change regardless of where it is that I've decided to kind of put my roots. But Portland has been good for that. You know, I've been able to visit LA a few times and Seattle, and get a different perspective on American life here than I would have on the East Coast. And so I'm certainly very appreciative of that.
I think it's Mike Oming in Portland too. There's
Sure is. Yeah, Mike and
artists.
Taki are both here. Yep.
Yeah, I've had them on the show a few times. They're great.
Sure are. I've had the privilege of meeting them once or twice, and they've been very, very friendly, pleasant people.
J. Robert Deans wanted to know if you've hooked up with the Helioscope folks yet.
Sure do. Yeah, I hang out with the folks at Helioscope almost once a week, if not more. When I first moved here, I was in the studio usually at least once a week, if not more. It's kind of changed since COVID, but this year I've been going in a lot more regularly. Yeah, they're all good folks over there, and certainly that community that comes through that is just really important as an artist to have. So.
I'm not familiar with Helioscope, so I was Googling it while we were.
Sure. Yeah, Helioscope's been around now as a comics art studio here in Portland for 20 years or so, maybe even a little more. Steve Lieber and Jeff Parker were some of the main founders. They're still there regularly. And there's a whole slew of other talented comics folks who are in and out on a daily or weekly basis. And they also used to offer, and I think they will again soon, a kind of mentorship tutoring type program for up and coming aspiring artists who are either students or early in their career to learn some skills in person from other professionals. And when I was first going in there regularly in 2018 and 2019, they were still doing that. And I think, you know, COVID kind of put a bit of a damper on that, but they're in the process, making progress and putting that back together. So if you are an artist watching this, and and interested in that, you know, just either follow them on Twitter or Instagram, or keep an eye out on a newsletter, and there might be some new information about that before too long.
Yeah, I just shared their link in the chat just for those who are curious. Yeah, there's a lot of well-known artists that are working with that. That's cool.
Certainly. Yeah, I like everybody over there.
Oh, interesting. So how's the thing coming along?
It's coming along. I think I like this shot of him a lot better than the original one I did, which looks all right. He's kind of becoming like Swamp Thing and Juggernaut to me, and this reads more like the Thing. I'm doing this all with one tool right now, and I can get some weight with it, but I'm going to go in soon and get some a couple finer lines, and then also thicken a few of the lines with this pen up a little bit, and hopefully give it that final little bit of oomph. As always with a head sketch, it's for me about trying to capture the character and bring something interesting to the drawing. I'm not necessarily as concerned about making every single line or shape the most meticulously crafted, and it's rather about capturing the spirit or the essence of the character. So
Robert wanted to know, since the J is silent, Robert, he wanted to know if I'd gotten the image, and I did, of Shakes. So here's, oh, it's smaller here. Let me swing it around and make it larger. There's Shakes. There's your version of Shakes, I believe.
I can't see it, but I believe it.
So yes, it did make it. I just had to transfer it over to a different computer since my email is on a different, it's on a laptop. I do
there
my work.
It is.
Yeah, there is Shakes.
There is Shakes. Robert on his ever impressive Shakes hustle.
Hey, you got 20 books under your belt. That's doing something.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I do an art annual, and we got we print in China, and we got the shipment last week. 90% of the books were damaged when they came in.
So that's rough.
Totally killed me. I mean, we have enough to like fulfill all our immediate orders and stuff, but
right,
you know, but now it's going to be another 2 months before I get get it all shipped back. So it's like, so hey, you have something like that happen, and you realize, you know, maybe it's not worth it to do all this self-publishing when things go wrong like that. But I should feel lucky. In 9 years of doing that, I've never had, you know, you always get like 5% damage or something.
Sure.
Where you chuck them or you offer them as scratch and dent. But this case, they didn't put it on the boxes on a pallet. They didn't double box them. They didn't put corners on anything. They literally just shipped them, you know, 10 hardbacks in it per box, and every box was damaged. It was crazy.
Yeah, that's really frustrating.
Yeah, but
at least I mean, good on them to be at least trying to rectify that, but also like, come on, guys. Like,
I know it's like their excuse was, they said, well, we knew you were in a rush to get them, so we knew that they would arrive faster this way.
So we rushed them. Okay.
So now you have to reprint them. But because the thing was, we overnight, well, not overnight, we airship. We debuted the book at a show in PA in mid-October. Right. So we always airship those and then slow boat the other ones. And the ones they airship, they put on a pallet and they double boxed them and had the corners on, and they were all perfect, of course. But the ones that they put on the boat, they just threw them in loose. I mean, that's in a single box. It's crazy. I mean, I don't know what they were thinking. So I'm holding. You know, they said they would.
Just say they weren't thinking about that one.
No, not at all. It's like that. You know, it's worth spending the extra $100 on you know, 40 more cardboard boxes or something.
Right.
Extra padding and a pallet.
Oh,
so
that's that's very frustrating.
Yeah.
You know, I've done most of my shipping of art and books myself. And I always try to go the extra mile with all that stuff to make sure that it has, I'd rather have that little bit of extra padding rather than less,
It's just not worth it, right? You don't want to replace
Nope,
it. Shipping books
absolutely.
anymore these days is expensive.
It
I
sure
mean,
is.
it's so yeah. So well, it is what it is. Hopefully, as long as they do it, that's the
Yeah.
thing. I just told my partner, I'm like, you make sure that they take photographs of the books on the pallet, and you get
Yeah.
proper tracking information, and then I'm going to believe that they did it. So,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, because yeah, he went through
Oh,
everything, and it's
geez.
like, yep, we've got enough to fulfill the Kickstarter, we've got enough to ship the bud plant, we've got enough to
Right.
get to all the places that did the advance orders, and still probably have like 30 books left over to to start actually selling direct after the pre-orders. But still, it's like
Right.
this is
Yeah.
not something you want to deal with.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
Hey,
Very lucky so
should
far.
remind everybody too that watching now, watching later, if you're interested in getting a commission from Eryk, you can see the email address to send that request to, gmasorders@gmail.com. Prices for the commissions are on the screen as well. 6x9s are 100, 9x12s are 250, and 11x14 is $400. So keep that in mind. Don't have to just claim them live. You can send in your requests, and Robert will definitely let you know whether or not, because we kind of had some set numbers on what we wanted to accomplish tonight. But
Sure.
Robert will definitely let you know if Eryk's still taking them or not.
I will probably have the ability to take a few more. I don't know if I'd say a handful more, but depending on what they come through as.
Yeah.
Certainly, when it comes to the, you're talking about the three sizes, all of them, I try to have an idea of what I'm doing beforehand. But when you get to the kind of 11x14 and the 11x17 sizes, I really do take a lot of time trying to kind of put together studies and really thinking about the composition and the concept. Whereas for the 9x12s and the 6x9s, it's a lot more just kind of free form in the moment sketching.
Mm-hmm.
So those will affect the time for sure. That stuff takes a while to do. But it really is because I don't want anyone getting art from me that I feel like, especially, I mean, at any price point, but especially at the higher price points, I want them to get something that they know that I really put some time and thought into. Always trying to make any piece the best that I can in the moment. Yeah, once it gets to be a bigger illustration like that, you have the room to kind of try and push it a little bit one way or another, and so I'm always trying to do that.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense, and that's why I think we had mentioned earlier the 6x9s and the 9x12s they might be done within a few weeks. The 11x14s, we were thinking more mid-December to Christmas time period.
Precisely.
Yeah.
I think we're kind of getting near the end here for this thing. Not sure what's the time here. Getting close to 2 hours. I think we'll have this one done before the end of the stream. I think I was thinking about working on the, I got a Gwenpool commission as well, but I think that's going to just end up going up on the Instagram when I finish.
Cool.
But this has been fun. I've really been a fan recently of kind of doing these little, I call it jazz to me, right? It's like just kind of making some marks, some shapes with the paint pen or with the ink, like this shape with the eye, is one of them particularly that's like a motif I've been a fan of. And it's just kind of like a little extra spirit or energy of the character coming out. I actually think this adds a fun little aspect to this that I had it really originally penciled in, you know, but I hit it with that paint marker and then I'm like, oh, cool. You know, I don't know if it's a you know, kind of graffiti style mentality or whatever, but just like letting my hand dance on the lines that.
So what is I don't recall. Did you say you've got some upcoming appearances that you're doing show wise, or is there anything at least maybe after the first of the year?
Yeah, so next year, my big plan right now, I do need to finalize these, so don't take these as written in stone, anyone who's watching, but I am currently planning / expecting to be at Heroes Con and New York Comic Con next year. Certainly that's subject to change depending on a variety of factors with, you know, I sure hope COVID doesn't bloom again in that time, but if it does, that might change that, as well as, you know, potentially some other factors with, you know, personal life and whatever. But I am planning on being to both of those shows on the West Coast. I think there's a good chance that I'll be at Rose City Comic Con again in Portland. I might make an appearance at Emerald City, but I don't have any currently hard planned. I don't expect to have a table there. And I'm thinking about some of the international shows next year as well, on the Lemon, Thought Bubble, and stuff that are, again, you know, don't take those as set in stone plans, but we'll see, depending if you're a international comics art fan or not. But I'll be sure to keep those updated. And in the meantime, I will be continuing to be publishing and putting stuff online on my Instagram. And I might even have sometime in the next 6 months a Patreon set up. I've been kind of working on putting one together, but almost everything that I've been doing with my career for the past few years, aside from this kind of like live commission stuff and sketch lists with Geoff M Art, I've been handling on my own, and with, you know, trying to have a generally reasonable personal life, as well as dealing with some of the stuff that's come up, and making art and growing, it can get to be a lot. So I'm kind of figuring out exactly how I'm going to approach and attack that stuff over the next year or two. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now. You should be able to see my work in the Astroneer book through Titan, which will be out, I believe, in March. And keep your eye out for Heavy through Vault, which is my series with them, which should be out in trade and in an oversized single fairly early into the new year in late winter or spring. So,
oh, cool. Yeah, I'll make sure I forgot to look in for your socials, but I'll make sure I get the Instagram link in the show description after we're done here. Is there any other socials I should link to, or is that the main one that you're active in?
I mostly use Twitter and Instagram.
Okay.
Twitter has been a sort of strange landscape recently, but I'm not intending on changing or deleting or otherwise abdicating my Twitter profile anytime soon. So if you are a Twitter user, you should still be able to find me there. But if you want art updates, Instagram is where you're going to get the best art updates from me, I think, right now. So
yeah, I added the link to the GMAS site, but I didn't link those, so I'll put those in there as well.
Absolutely,
so everybody can follow you that way. But Heroes is the show, man. I'm telling you, that's if you can make that one, and you already knew that, but we made that our rallying point last year, as far as for comic art fans as a community. And I think
certainly
we probably had about 300 CAF members at the show, and it was a good time. Fantastic. I mean, it was a really, really good time. So
that's fantastic.
It always was.
I was hoping to make it this year. I had a family wedding that coincided that same weekend, and especially with kind of the way things had been with you know, sort of COVID and everything else leading up to that, it felt to me like, as much as I wanted to be at Heroes Con this year, you know, it was a time for me to be with my blood. So
Oh yeah.
I did the wedding and a family vacation with my parents and my siblings, and it was a really lovely time. But you still have that FOMO, right? You know, you see all the great pictures and the art that's coming out of the show, and you're like, wish
Yeah.
I was there, you know.
I mean, it was still early,
But
you know, it was a little early. I mean, there were a few friends of mine that did pick up COVID from going there. So, you know, it was early in that period of when everybody was starting to feel more comfortable. But, you know, I feel lucky that, yeah, I didn't get it, but you know, I mean, even people that went to San Diego, there were friends of mine that got it. But fortunately, I think we're at that point where it isn't as serious as it was, or, you know, early on, but it's still out there.
Yeah, it's still out there. You know, I mean, this city that I live in, you know, Portland has been very mask oriented the entire time. And I'll still wear my mask to like the grocery store or to a convention or stuff, usually if it's asked for. But it's nice to kind of feel like finally, you know, most people are vaccinated, or you know, the risk isn't as high as it used to be. But yeah, I mean, like you said, it's out there, and you want to be cautious, and you certainly don't want to be getting people sick who, you know, I'm lucky to have a generally pretty healthy immune system, and I realize that not everyone's in the same place. So, you know, those are all things to take into account for making plans like that. You know, if I fly, I'm definitely going to be wearing my mask on the plane, you know, even with the really nice filters and things that they've got. And that's, you know, just to kind of prevent myself any heartache in some way, you know.
Oh yeah, no, I know.
I think this is looking pretty fun, this thing here.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure Robert will let you know if they added any other ones to the list that we had early on. So I'm gonna follow you on Instagram now, so I can take a look at the other pieces that you work on.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and Knights of Old actually mentioned I love Eryk's Daemon Targaryen and Caraxes drawing. I saw on his Instagram. So there you go.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, I had a real good time creating that drawing. So I'm glad that you enjoyed it. So this final piece, it might have a few more touch-ups, but just for the sake of the stream, I'm going to sign it. And it's, I would say, probably about 90 to 95% finished. You know, awesome. Usually I like to let these sit, and then I'll kind of step away and come back and look at them and see if there's something that catches my eye I want to make an adjustment to. But there we are.
Well, it looks awesome. So all right, cool. That is amazing. So like I mentioned earlier, everybody, if you want to get one for yourself, there's the email address and prices for those. Don't be shy. You can shoot Robert any of your inquiries, and he'll handle that for you from GMAS. And you know, if you got anything special, you could probably work that out as well. But also, don't forget, I put the link in the show description for buying published pieces that Eryk has done as well. Over on
I do have some original art pages as well as published covers available for sale as well. In fact, if you want, I don't know how much time we have left. I have a few of the variant covers sitting around if you wanted me to show them, but I definitely don't want to take up any extra time that you don't need to.
No, we got a couple extra minutes. Yeah, we got 5 minutes before we hit 2 hours.
Cool. All right then. Well, while this is kind of drying, I'll leave it up here for a second, and I'll just show you a couple of the variant covers that I've done over the past year or so. All right, this is nice and dry, so we'll move this off. So we've got here Now these are the printed comics, not the original art for sure. I did all the pencils, inks, and colors for these. This is Proctor Valley Road, which Boom put out early last year. So this is a unique variant for this comic here, Proctor Valley Road by Boom. It's Grant Morrison, Alex Child, and Naomi Franquez, and then Tamara Bonvillain with the colors here. This is a really fun one.
Yeah, I'm showing it
kind
on
of like
screen.
for a monster book. Yep.
The piece on the website that is still available.
This here is New Burn. There's a crime noir from Jacob Phillips and Chip Zdarsky on Image. This is my variant cover here for this. This is actually almost an exact replica of the original art. Usually I do a full color treatment, but I had gone in with this red paint and I just really liked this stark noir image, and so did my client. So here we are, New Burn #1. So we've got some of these for sale as well, which you can order through Geoff M Art. This is the Duel #1. This is a really cool indie comic about an online murder game, basically, where people will take hits and challenges to kill each other for money. And this is a cover featuring the lead here. And this is Bloodstained Teeth, which is Christian Ward and Patrick Reynolds through Image. This is my variant cover for that. We have the original art of this for sale as well. This is Bloodstained Teeth #1. And finally, this is The Closet #1, which is James's new book that he's done with Gavin Fullerton. And this is my variant cover for that. And this is originally published, I believe, through his Substack and has now been since published via Image. So I've got some of these variants as well as the original art for sale through Geoff M Art. So there you go.
Yeah, and I can highlight one more time that the website address too. It's at like GEOFF, GeoffMArt.com. Yep. And any inquiries can be sent to gmasorders@gmail.com as well.
Yep,
so,
absolutely.
So Eryk, man, this was a lot of fun. I hope you do get to go to Heroes next year. I'd love to meet you in person.
Yeah, it'd be a blast. I sure hope so as well.
And I thank Robert for doing this. Hopefully we'll do some more of these shows with the crew from your from GMAS. I think it'd be a lot of fun. I don't get to do these often enough, as I always tell everybody on the show. I like hanging out with artists, just to, especially when we get a chance to watch you work too. That was fun.
Well, I really appreciate it. Yeah, thank you, Bill. This has been a lot of fun.
All right. Well, I appreciate everybody hanging out tonight with us. Had a decent crowd, and I'll be back at it again tomorrow night with actually Andy and Veronica Fish. They're not going to be drawing, but we'll be looking at some of their collected artworks and also looking at some of the artwork that they are bringing for sale to Comic Art Live this weekend. So should be a fun show. If you know, they're always a nice pair to talk to. I think if you've got a free time tomorrow night, tune in at 9 p.m. and we'll talk to them then. Otherwise, have a great evening, everybody, and thanks again, Eryk.
What a blast. Thank you, Bill. Y'all have a good night, everyone. Thanks for joining.